Hello and welcome to Dungeoneered, a podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Let's do this. So Josh, you said you might have wanted to open Lukewarm open up with something, or are we saving that for...
I think I'll save it for the end, because it's kind of a good, wrap-up thing. We were planning on talking about this week more of the 2024 rulebook, specifically in terms of classes, right? Classes, feats, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, let's jump in. I think that's the next logical step, because last week we covered kind of all the basic core rule changes and then a little bit of some, race species, I should say. So yeah, let's jump into classes, because there's a lot to cover in classes too, because they really changed quite a bit about some classes. So what do you think the best way of doing this? Yeah, what do you think
have
the best way of
anything
doing
particular
this is?
that like a fundamental change to a class that you know of that you wanted to talk about?
Not particularly. I think fighter is a really big one.
Fighter does have some interesting ones, because a lot of fighter stuff was just taken away from fighter and said, hey, let's just give this to everybody, because it makes it all more fun. Specifically weapon masteries and stuff like that. But I think one of the biggest ones that I would like to talk about to start is your opinion on the wild shape changes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so walk everybody through what the wild shape changes are and what it kind of looks like now, as opposed to what it looked like.
So there's a few different things that they talked about that they wanted to change or needed to change. Now, we all know who've played Druids before, or at least known min-maxing things or just ways that the game was a little broken, is Circle of the Moon Druids in 2014. Once you get to a high enough level, you are invulnerable. You just are you have so many stacks of hit points that you cannot go down, pretty much.
Yeah, you're unkillable.
You're unkillable.
Even without to be honest, even without the final Moon Druid level, you're unkillable as you get even elementals unkillable.
Yeah, eventually you have so many wild shapes that times that you can do wild shape in a day. You can do it so fast. Sometimes you can even cast spells in it. You get to such a high level that you're just super powered.
Yep. Not doing enough damage as an earth elemental? Then go underground and have lightning storm rain down all the time. Concentrate. So it's so broke. I love it, but it's broken.
Now, one of they've done a few different things, which I'm gonna go off my old memory of the 2014 rulebook a little bit here.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember 100%. When you went into Wild Shape, it was and you transform for a number of hours equal to half your Druid level before. It still is that way, or until you use it again, or until you're incapacitated or you die. They did change it that you can so before you had to be Circle of the Moon Druid, which Circle of the Moon, the whole thing is we're a Druid that's heavily focused on the transformation as how we want to run this character.
Yep.
So it gave you the ability to transform as a bonus action, and that was a thing you got for being that type of Druid. Now everybody gets that. That's just bonus action transformation, hands down, everyone gets.
I think it's a good change. I think
it's a great change. I think it felt weird that Druids had such limited uses of this ability, or felt like it was so restrictive that there are major Druids that would never touch it.
Yep, I agree. You would the Druid wild shape form was just a thing to navigate a building when you wanted to be a spider or a fly or something.
It was very situational. 100%. Yeah. Now, one of the things that it used to do is that when you transformed, you would get the hit points of whatever you turn into, and then once those hit points were all whittled down, you transform back into your human form, or whatever race you are, but species in this one. But now you retain your hit points, your hit dice, your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, class features, languages, and feats. So they also took away that restriction that you couldn't speak when you were in an animal form.
Because can you now? Can you do that?
Yeah,
now?
you can. Because they
awesome.
They didn't want to hey, you used your second and only transformation of the day not to use in that last battle. You don't want to waste it and immediately untransform once the battle's over.
Yeah.
You still have 3 hours like this. So you just stay in it, and then you can't you can't engage in any like other part. There's a major part of the game of people talking and doing stuff, and you just have to sit there.
Right.
And I appreciate that as a change.
Yeah, well, that's one of my things. So just to kind of go off topic, in Baldur's Gate that I hate about the Druid is because I always want I want my main character to play a Druid, but like you waste all your wild shapes and you can't talk or be the face of the party, so it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
So I like this change just in general, just from the basic looks and from Baldur's Gate.
Another thing that they did, you retain your skills and saving throw proficiencies and use your proficiency bonus when you have to make skill checks as this bear or whatever shape you're in. In addition, you gain the proficiencies of the creature. So, say a bear is proficient in athletics, you gain that proficiency as well.
Yep.
But also, if a skill or saving throw modifier in the beast stat block is higher than yours, you use that one.
Yep. And I think that's good. I think that's
a nice survivability that you are getting for what they've taken away other survivability things, so it's nice to give more back.
Yep, agreed.
And then when you
curious
transform,
what
yeah.
Well, I was just curious what you think of the hit point thing. We might get into
about
your thoughts on.
Well, so I was about to do
not
that.
having
so
that.
When you assume a wild shape form, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to your druid's level. That's not a lot.
No, that is very little.
At most, it'll be 20.
Yeah, that's like one hit. That's like less than a hit from a powerful.
Especially if you are level 20. There's no way you're going to take way more than 20 damage.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if we rolled a level 3 fireball, okay, what is the average damage of level 3 fireball? I'm assuming you automatically like lose all your temporary hit points. You can't even tank like a basic level 3 fireball. You're not very tanky anymore. Sure.
Yes, it is definitely taken away the effect of Druid as tank.
Yep. Which I don't know. Do I like that? I don't know.
I don't know.
So.
I think also like it is one of the things that they were trying to do with this new edition is that they also are they're not saying you can't play the original printed one. Like they're both kept these as 5th edition. So if you want to create a tank Druid, you can always play the original.
Yeah, I don't know. So I'm really torn about this change because one of my favorite, if not my favorite class, is Druid. I really like Bard, so it's up there too. And I really like Circle of the Moon Druid, not because I think it's incredibly broken, which it is, but I just love, I don't know, the utility and transforming into animals and like fighting in animal form. I just think that's super cool and like really fun flavor. And I really liked being able to like tank and be that kind of wall that the party needs, right? And when you take that away, it really feels like you took away a major like that's like it's bread and butter. But I understand like
it changes the like reason for playing it from older edition to this edition. Like it's not like, hey, this is a part of the fantasy, so we're gonna play it up. I haven't gone through all of the subclasses. It might be
so the Moon Druid might.
It might still have features to make it more tanky, but I don't know. Now I will say one interesting thing that they include in this is that when you transform, you don't automatically absorb all your item, like what you're wearing. You choose. So you could say, I want to absorb my sword and my shield and whatever, but leave my armor.
Interesting.
Now, it doesn't say that
Does it count towards your armor class if you leave like your armor and stuff? I'm assuming not, right?
Yes, it does. It does. But it does say your equipment doesn't change size or shape to match the new form, and any equipment that the new form can't wear just falls off.
Got it.
So it's up to the DM decides whether it's practical for the new form to wear a piece of equipment based on the creature's size and shape. So if
I guess
you talk to your DM enough, like you could do like Hulk stretchy pants where you get your armor designed in such a way that when you transform into a bear, it still works.
Yeah, could you make an argument that magical armor will transform to your size because magical armor does that?
I would say that is something to like you would talk with your DM about.
Yeah, because
I might just say yes because it would also add to the survivability of different forms.
Yeah.
But like if you're wearing
Moon
light
Druid,
armor,
by the way,
and you switch, you still like your dex is changing. So if your dex is not as high, you're not going to have as high of an armor class, even if you left your light armor on. So I don't think it would be overpowered. but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Just I guess it would depend on the armor and what you get, but I don't know. I'm inclined to be so far like okay with this. Moon Druid does make you tankier, so it's 3 times your.
Yeah.
So Moon Druid does make you, if you wanted to play a tankier one,
yeah.
You're looking, then you get 60 HP instead of 20, which is at least a hit or 2.
Yeah.
Like, you know. Do you drop your wild shape form? How does that work? Like, how do you drop your wild shape form? Only if you become incapacitated or choose to drop it?
Or as a bonus action, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Do you think the wild shapes need a buff then? Like the monsters you can turn into? Like if we're going based on 2014 rules, do you think they might need a buff?
I haven't super looked.
Like if I just take the elemental form that you can be as a Moon Druid in 2014, the reason it was good, I mean it does okay damage, but like you just can tank, right? That's why it was so powerful. So I'm just curious, are those going to need a retune, or how does that work?
Well, I'm going to pull them up right now. Let's see, what would be a classic form that you would think of to turn into?
Well, your first one would probably be like a wolf or a bear, right? Those are your things that you kind of think of with it. I will say, one other big change before we dive into these forms is you can only have a certain turn into. It's not just any beast you've seen. So that's another really big limit.
Yeah, it's 4 at for second level, 6 at 4th, and 8 at 8.
Yep. Which is nice to not keep track of a billion different stat blocks and stuff, but
does it keep going up? It doesn't.
It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. I don't know. I would probably throw that out and just go back to what you have seen, just because that's easier and it just feels like way too restrictive. Yeah,
like if I had to pick at level 2 4 forms that I can be, like wolf, bear, badger, I don't know, like spider. That's just the Baldur's Gate one. Gate one. That's probably what I would do. I'd want one for like espionage, so being able to like sneak into a building or whatever, it's like a mouse or like a spider like that.
Okay, wait, hold on. It's not that bad.
Combat.
It's not that bad.
Okay.
Whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace one of your known forms for another eligible form. So just you can that's how many you can have like prepared like spells.
Okay. I like that. I think that's cool. All right. I'm down.
Cuz like I think with like even like those spellcasters that can change their prepared spells like with a sleep, I think that's kind of fun to be like, "Oh shoot, I didn't prepare the right things." Like that is a fun other thing to think about. Oh, I'm about to go in this type of an encounter. What do I prepare?
Interesting. Druid, so
yeah,
levels are different for Druid too. At level 2 you get a wild companion, which is really interesting. You spend a spell slot or use of wild change to cast Find Familiar without materials. So I think that's kind of interesting. At level 3 you get your subclass like everyone. Level 4 obviously is ability score. Level 5 Wild Research. You can expend a spell slot to regain a use of Wild Shape if you don't have any Wild Shape left.
But you could also do it the other way around. If you are at level 5, if you are somebody who's only using Wild Shapes, you can use your spell slots to Wild Shape now. Or you can do it the other way around. Use your Wild Shapes to cast more spells.
Now, it looks like you can only do a level 1 spell. Can you go for just level 1?
I think it would be. I'm assuming you'll get extra abilities based on like what type of druid you play. If your druid like subclass is all about spells and casting spells, I'm sure it would have things to make that a little better.
Now, Elemental Fury at level 7. You get 2 different options. Is potent spellcasting. You can add your Wisdom modifier to damage of your cantrips, which is incredible. Very good. And then Primal Strike, which I think is much needed. This is what we were talking about I was saying about damage for elementals or your wild shape. You get more damage, or D8. Very important.
Just to make him hit harder, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so when it's either a weapon or a beast form attack, you can add an extra 8 damage.
Oh, that's really nice.
Each of your attacks. Yes. So it's kind of like the old cleric ability.
Yeah.
Where you could always add radiant damage to your strike, but now and then it increases to 2d8 at level 15.
It's not only when you're in beast form or anything. Okay, that's nice.
Yep. At level 15, it increases to 2d8, but then potent spell casting gives you a range of 300 feet if your spell is at least 10-foot range. How
only
crazy
cantrips.
Is that?
Only cantrip.
Yeah, only cantrips. Yeah, but how cool is that? I like that a lot.
That's very nice. It's the idea of a druid sniper has never been a idea I've had, but maybe now.
Now. Here's my question, and I already know how I'd rule. I'm sure you. If you play a bugbear who has reach and a polearm with reach, you cast your Shillelagh, can you now go 300
No.
feet?
No, but you know what you can do?
Uh-oh.
Booming Blade from 300 feet.
Can you? Does Blooming Blade? Oh, you probably can, can't you?
If it's because it's within melee range originally, which is
Then you can hit
10 feet or greater.
Feet. Yep.
Because you're a bugbear.
Yeah.
I gotta pull up what the current rules for.
I'm curious what that would be.
is.
It'd be really funny.
Spell description.
I mean, obviously you can't. You just can't do a melee straight away.
I would love it though. I would if somebody asked me, "Hey,
so
I want to build.
funny.
I want to be able to do this utterly stupid thing." I'd be like, "Let me look at the rules."
Could you imagine? So
Because sometimes it's so funny that you're like, "How can I not?"
okay. Yeah, like, oh, your Shillelagh now has a 15-foot range, so I guess it now has 300-foot range because it's spellcasting.
I don't see Booming Blade at all on here. They might have gotten rid of it. What was the other one called?
Oh yeah, there's Booming Blade. There was another one that was just like it, a fire one, right?
It was something Strike.
I don't remember.
True Strike?
I don't remember. No, that is a cantrip though, but it's not.
Green Flame Blade was another one.
Green Flame Blade, that's it.
I don't see that on here either.
Yeah, I think those were like later editions.
No, I'm pretty sure they were original. Okay, True Strike is on here. The range is only self though. Oh, okay, yeah, because it just allows you to. Dang, that would have been funny though.
Yeah, it would. But then, if we continue on, Druid gets to be able to pick a at level 17.
Yes, it looks like it.
Level 17.
No,
cool.
19, level 19.
Oh, level 19.
You're saying you gain the epic boon?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I don't want to go
18
through everything. I think we
no. Agreed.
It's interesting that they are having now for like base classes when they give like, hey, you can get a boon or a feat or something, and they're like, we suggest this one. Like in this one, it says, boon of dimensional travel is recommended. That's interesting. I mean, I feel like if you've played to level 19, hopefully you have ideas where you want your character to go. But
yeah.
I mean, a lot of this stuff is with like the idea of for new players, and I appreciate that.
Yep, I agree. And then obviously too, it's important to these classes as well. Each level 20 thing got revamped and is completely different now. So everything that seemed kind of lackluster has attempted.
Yes.
And I don't know if I think the Druids is super great, but it just allows you to convert wild shape, number of wild shapes into 4 wild shape spell.
I mean, it's the one where you live forever, or for a long time. It's only 10 years. For every 10 years, only 1 year passes for you.
Yep.
So it's not infinite anymore. You're not pretty much immortal, but
yep. Still interesting. Yeah. I still really like it. I really love Druid. When I get to play again, I want to play a Druid. So because I've always had this idea of playing like a very sleek character who's really bad with like strength, dex, and constitution, but uses their wild shape as like a way to overcome that. I've always liked that. But their like mental stats are very good, like wisdom, intelligence. That's what I've always. I don't know. It'd be interesting just to play something very different and not usual. So
yeah.
Any other classes that you think you want to talk about?
Well, I'm up for going to fighter now.
Yeah, I think fighters are really just because they've changed a lot about martial classes.
Yeah, it's good to talk about weapon mastery and what that really is, what its uses are, and how one gets those. Yeah.
So walk us through level 1. You get weapon mastery. So walk us through
all classes that are martial in nature. From I'm pretty sure rogue, barbarian, fighter. I think certain subclasses of other ones get it as well, but paladin, those kind of ranger, they all get this thing called weapon mastery. Pretty much the idea is you've trained so much with a specific type of weapon that you have more interesting ways that you can use that weapon. For some, it's tripping. For some, it's even if you miss, you deal a little bit of damage. Like there's a lot of different things that different types of weapons can do. Certain classes, based on like how important fighting is to you, into that class and that identity. Yep. You either get more or less weapons that you can have the mastery of. For fighter, you get 3 kinds of weapon masteries of your choice. When you reach higher fighter levels, you can get more and more, but to start you get 3. And whenever you finish a long rest, you can practice weapon drills and change one of those weapon choices. So if you're in an area where you're like, oh, I'm about to go underwater, I need to have something that works better underwater, you can just train a little bit and switch to that, which is nice. And I don't know if all classes get the ability to switch like that, or if it's just fighter.
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I think it's a good change. And like we said, I think last week, martial classes needed some help. And doing this really helps. I think, too, a really important change for fighters that we have to highlight is their second wind is changed.
Oh, what's the change?
So you get all sorts of different abilities when you use your second wind now, called tactical. So essentially, as you level up, you can, first you start with 2 uses, second wind. So it's no longer just one, which is really nice. But you can also expend a use of your second wind to like pass ability checks. So if you fail an ability check, you can use your second roll again, which I think is real. So they've kind of
second wind also goes up to 4 uses at higher levels.
It does, yes. So it has multiple uses now. And I even think depending on your, like as you level up, so you can, when you use your second wind, you can do stuff to like gain opportunity attacks, run your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. Like there's all sorts of different, so it's no longer just like I heal myself, we're done. Like, it actually does stuff for you. So, which I think is very good.
It's nice. It's giving it as like another small resource.
Yep. Yeah. Which I think
options,
fighter and, which fighter and martial classes. So, but yeah, and I think overall, fighter really focuses on masteries. You gain more masteries as you, with like unique ones like slow. You gain to slow your attacks. So just all sorts of different like that. I think that's kind of the main things for fighter. That second wind has been dramatically, which I love. It focuses so heavily. I thought there was a change to maneuvers.
Well, so that's what I'm looking at right now. Everything looks pretty similar. Everything from like even like, oh, you get one artisan's tool when you choose it. Oh, you get to know your enemy. The one thing that's interesting, and I don't know if it was the same way in 2014, is Relentless, level 15 ability. Once per turn, when you use a maneuver, you can roll 1d8 and use that number instead of expending a superiority dice.
Oh.
Which is interesting because it just gives you infinite superiority dice, pretty much. Yours
that's cool.
Go up, right? They're not always d8s, right? Or is it just a number of d8s for the whole time?
I think it's just a number of d8s. But it goes up in this. It goes up to d12s.
Your superiority dice goes up to d12s. Yeah, so this one is always going to be a d8, but it just allows you to just always have one free d8 superiority dice,
right,
no matter what, which every turn, which is very nice. So you're just, even on turns where you have no other resources, you're still going to be able to continue to do the main thing that your subclass, Battlemaster, can do. Which I appreciate because there's certain ones of those things where it's like your main mechanic is so based around another resource that if you're out of that resource, you're screwed. Like you just can't do anything.
Yep. Agreed. And I'm curious to see, for me, and let me know if you agree with this. When I played Fighter 2014 5e, I really felt like if I didn't go Battlemaster, I was kind of lacking. So I'm curious to see. Like, I just felt like Battlemaster was so much better than the rest.
I hated Battlemaster.
Did you?
And I still do. And it's not. It's just that I don't care about that
the
type
flavor.
Of well, not even that flavor.
Yeah.
I just don't like I just didn't care about trying them to. Oh, what type of hit should I do? Like that just didn't matter to me.
Yeah, I liked it because it felt like Weapon Master. It was a little bit different.
I get that, and I totally get why people love it, and like. It's super well done and and interesting, but it just never was for me.
Yeah, to me, and I think everybody too. I just felt like Battlemaster is the best and most in class when you're playing fighter.
I always loved Champion,
that's just my thought.
That's just because critting on a 1920 is very nice.
Yeah, but it just, to me, it just seemed very lacking. So, I don't know.
It definitely didn't feel like you had as many options, for sure.
No. It's just, I felt like it just, everything divulged into walk up, I hit you, walk up, I smack you, walk up, I smack you. You know, like over and over again. Where at least with Battlemaster, you can like swap, because you can grant extra AC, you can have other people attack, you can do all sorts of different fun things. Whereas like the rest of them, I didn't. Now, granted, I didn't play a lot of like. I know there's like the horse riding one. I don't remember what that one's called. Like Cavalry. I don't know what it's called Cavalry, but
yeah, it's not
there's
in
all sorts of different
2024
ones.
yet.
Right. So I did like
Cavalier.
some of those, but for the most part, yeah, Cavalier. For the most part, I just liked Battlemaster, but I didn't play Fighter. I just thought Male General.
Yeah.
So,
now, Champion is pretty boosted.
Is it? Okay. I think it needed it, so I'm curious.
So it starts the way it normally does. It also extends it from not just a weapon attack, but also your unarmed strikes also can crit on a 19 and 20. So if you want to like hop 3 in, but still be like a monk, you can still crit on 19s and 20s, which is cool, which is nice, fun for multi-classing. Yep. At level 10, though, it gets this really interesting ability, which is a few different classes have started to do this because they wanted to make a mechanic that was so underutilized in the old edition a part of the game so people think about it more. There's a thing called Heroic Inspiration, which it wasn't called that in 2014. I think it was just called DM Inspiration. The whole point is that if you do something incredibly in line with your character or incredibly cool, the DM can just say, I'm going to give you the chance to just pick when you want advantage on a roll.
I like that. Yep.
And so now, at level 10 for champions, at the beginning of every turn, if they don't have it, they can just be like, I have a Heroic Inspiration now.
Yep.
Which means cool. that they crit on a 19 and 20, and they can also just every turn get advantage on one strike.
Yep. So that they can feed their crit a little bit more.
Even more chances to reach that crit.
Yep.
Which is very cool.
I will say, do not sleep on you get advantage on initiative, by the way, for a champion. Just FYI.
Oh, the level 3 ability? Yes. Advantage on initiative rolls and strength checks?
Yep.
Athletics checks?
So,
okay.
Yeah.
If you want
I think advantage on initiative rolls is cool.
If you want to create a grappler, you level 3 champion.
Yep.
That's the way to go. You always have advantage on athletics checks. That's
so
very powerful.
Pretty good. Yep. Pretty good. So just some little changes for the subclasses, which I think are good. Do you mind if we switch to Paladin here? Because I think you have some choice words about the Paladins.
Sure. I'm good with switching to the Paladin.
I was going to say, the only other melee class that I thought didn't feel super dry was Paladin, and that's just use Smite in the old version. So walk us through some Paladin changes. What happened to Paladin?
First and foremost, the biggest change would have to be Smite has become officially a spell. It's kind of an overarching change where they want they wanted to have a consistent language between all classes, and like other classes where it's been, hey, your main thing is this one ability. That's always been a spell for those other classes, and they just wanted to unify that. So if a lot of classes have a consistent thing that they're always using and it's magical in some way, just make it a spell, like Hunter's Mark and Eldritch Blast and things like that. That does mean there are some problems. There's some other things that have to be worried about. In terms of they can be counterspelled.
Which, who's going to counterspell Smite? Probably not a lot of individuals. It's possible.
Yes. I mean, if you're low on hit points...
Yeah, but especially with the counterspell changes, like, it's just not worth it anymore.
That's true, because they also have high constitutions as paladins. I didn't think about that.
So it's not worth it. It's not worth it to counterspell Smite because they're most likely going to save the Constitution saving throw. So... Because for those who don't know, just with a quick side note, counterspell has changed completely. So it's now a Constitution saving throw instead of just automatically succeeding if you're higher level than the spell. So if your spell level you cast is higher level, so it's a big change. Yeah. So and then the spell slot that you counterspell doesn't get expended. Only the actions, the bonus action or reactions to cast it. So so if a big bad evil guy casts a 9th level meteor storm or whatever, and you counterspell it, that 9th level spell does not go away. They keep it in there, but they just lose that turn of action. So it's a big change. But I guess I didn't think about this though. If you use level 3 counterspell to counterspell a 9th level spell, it's the same as a 9th level counterspell counterspelling a 9th level spell, correct? Because it's just a con save no matter what.
I think so. It sounds like that would be based on how it's... I'm going to pull up the spell just to make sure there's not this is what happens at higher levels.
Yeah. That's interesting then. If that's the case, that's kind of interesting.
Counterspell. Yep. Nope. Nothing it does at higher levels.
Okay, so it might be worth it for like a level 3 to postpone a level 9 spell, but even then, it's just postponing it. But we'll see. I don't know. I haven't thought too much about the counter spells. We'll talk about spells in a later.
Just on a personal note, do you think you would bring back the ability that if it's 2 levels over the spell that was cast, it's just a guaranteed fail? Guaranteed, like...
I don't know. I'd have to think about it. And we talked about this D&D last night. As a DM, and I don't know if you feel that way as a DM, sometimes it feels like your high-level spellcasters just get eaten alive by counterspell over and over and over and over. So, like, you know, if three party members have counterspell, then your wizard literally can't do anything. So you kind of have to, you know, get out of its range, which is possible. There's ways around it, but it really felt oppressive, unless you just have like a team of wizards with your big bad evil guy who can also counterspell. Yeah. But then it's just a chain reaction of counterspell. So I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about the counterspell change yet. I have to think about it a little bit more. I didn't know it was a thing until yesterday, so like I didn't even know. So I kind of have to think about it a little bit more about and maybe even do some play testing, because it's nice that my big bad monsters that can cast spells aren't just going to be shut down, but it's also kind of sucky for the players because it feels like, why do I counter? I guess it wastes an action, but I don't know. Just feels like you're postponing the inevitable with counterspell, and that, you know, actually, but. It was always really annoying as a player, too, when your 9th level spell gets counterspelled. So, like, there's also that aspect where now when you're a player and you cast a cool spell, sure, you might just waste your action, but at least you can try again next time, you know? Like, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so now Smite can be counterspelled, which I think is not going to happen much. I think the biggest impact that this does is you can't smite than once.
Yes, that is a big thing.
That, for me, is a huge hit. Like, because doing 2 smites is so much damage, you know? And now you can only do 1 a turn. What do you think about that? What's your thoughts?
I am not sure.
I'm in the same boat. I'm not sure.
Like, 1, it forces the paladin to do other things as their like.
Yeah.
It makes different choices.
I mean,
slow them down so that they like aren't like, oh, I'm going to just use everything on this one turn, and then we'll just sleep afterwards. Like, they have to conserve some stuff.
Yeah, they're forced to conserve instead of you choose to.
So I think, just like you were saying, I think I would have to, like, see it played out a little bit before I can make a decision on whether this is a good or a bad change. And ultimately, like, I don't particularly hate it. I don't particularly love it.
I'm in the same boat. I don't know. My initial thought is disappointment because I really like Supernovas.
Oh, it's so fun.
Like, you just walk in there and it's so fun as a player to just Supernova. So there's a little bit of disappointment, but I also understand if you're like a fighter, for example, and you're watching your paladin do 80 points of damage a turn, and you're like 10, 15, you know, like, it's kind of like, okay, I'm left in the dust. So I guess I understand from that perspective. I don't know. Well, I have to see it played before I can really make a judgment or not. Now, I will say from a DM perspective, having your monster just get instantly annihilated by a paladin who walks in and double crits or something is like, you know, annoying, but also so cool if it happens, you know? Like...
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It is, and it's fun for the players, and it's a.
I'm torn.
But
yeah, I'm torn.
Yeah,
I think the main thing that needed to be changed for paladins is their auras. Did something happen to paladin auras? Because they can be very broken.
You're gonna gain a bonus to saving throws equal to your charisma mod. No, I think that's the exact same. They just, the wording is different.
Now, here's the big difference that I noticed from Paladin auras that nerfs paladins, a team of paladins, is that they can't stack. Only one, you choose which bonus. So
I didn't know that wasn't a thing. That's always been how I've played it.
Yeah, it used to be where you can have like a team of paladins just stand together in a circle and they would get like plus 15 to all their saves. At least that's what I've been.
Well, no, I'm looking at the old one. The old one doesn't say anything about, oh, you could only get this bonus once. So, yeah. So that's based on the old rules. Yes. And that is, I think that's always been how it was. But people didn't see that, hey, you can't technically.
Yep. So just even having two paladins in a party, like, which I've played with, like, eats your, because it's just like, oh, any spell I cast, everybody's going to save it because they have plus 8 or plus 10 to their saves.
I mean that, and also like level 10 ability of just everybody has immunity to frighten.
I think that's a very good change that I think needed to happen, which I'm okay with. I don't know the range. I don't know the range off the top of my head for the aura in 2014 versus I don't know if did the ranges change or anything like that, or is it still within 10 feet?
No, it did not change. They were both 10 feet. Both 10 feet. I had the other one opened right now. Yeah, both 10 feet. Charisma. The one biggest change would be to Aura of Courage, where it specifically says if a frightened ally enters the aura, that condition has no effect on that ally while there, meaning that I guess it's still like in effect, and if they leave the area, they go back into the frightened state. Because it doesn't say the frightened condition drops. It just says it doesn't affect them while they're there. If frightened
ally enters the aura, that condition has no effect on the ally while there. So I'm assuming if you leave, you're frightened again. Yeah. So I think you just don't make saves or anything while you're in there. Yeah. And you're just not frightened. But then as soon as you leave, you're back under the frightened. So that's my interpolese. So and how I'd rule it, which I think is good.
Mm-hmm. I would probably still let them make this.
Yeah, but if you're not frightened, you don't need to make a save.
While they're not frightened,
you're not scared anymore. But as soon as you leave, you're scared again. So like, I think it's fine as is, because in my opinion, you enter the Aura of Courage, you're just not scared anymore. Safe. Like, you're just, what are you saving from? You're not scared, and you don't even know you're scared until you leave the Aura again. So that would be my ruling. So yeah. Otherwise, I think Paladin remains relatively similar than it was. I just think the smite change is really big, and the not being able to stack Aura. They also do get Steed, which I don't think they get. They get a spell that did that.
Yeah, well, so they did, and they still have. It's still you just gain the spell. But you get a free use of the spell is the big difference.
Interesting. Okay.
It was always kind of a thing that was designed with the intention of this is how Paladin's supposed to be played.
Right.
But it just wasn't like... It was like a thing where they were relying on old editions and like the old designs of like, oh, everybody knows how the old games work.
Yep.
So this is the intention that everybody takes find greater steed and find steed. It didn't end up playing out that way. So they're like, well, that's kind of a major point of how our idea of this class is. Why don't we just give it to them for free and like put a little more emphasis on it?
Yeah. I will say, lay on hands changed just a tiny bit. You can also remove like blind when you're higher level. You can different conditions. So you can get rid of paralyzation and stuff like that.
It does say that? Where does it say that?
Level 14.
Oh, there it
touch.
Is. Yep.
So that's also a pretty big change, which I
will
agree
say
with
a big change that happened to the book in general, which this kind of points out, is that diseases are kind of gone.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just I don't think they were being used very much. So the game was just like, why even write anything about them? So before, you could remove the poisoned and the diseased conditions by using 5 points of lay on hands, and now they're just like, it's only poisoned. Nobody uses diseases.
Yep. I think it's a good change. I think also lay on hands was an action in 2014, and now it's a bonus action, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that's huge.
Which is really big. So that's another big change. Yeah, which I think makes lay on hands way more usable.
I don't know if you remember this when in a game where I was a paladin in well, you were a player as well. There were so many combats where the only action I ever took was run to this person, lay on hands, run to this person, lay on hands, run to this person, lay on hands. And it was my action every time, so I couldn't do anything besides just bring them up with 1 hit point. They can heal themselves with their potion. Bring them up with 1 hit point. Like,
but now
it was a fun fight still, but it was like I much prefer this.
Yeah, but now you can kind of see where they're going with the interaction, because Divine Smite is a bonus action. So if you lay on hands, you can Divine Smite in this. So they're trying to, limit. Yeah, I think Divine Smite is a bonus action.
I'm like 90% sure it wasn't. I thought it was a reaction to when you hit. No, bonus action. You're right. It's a bonus action which you can take immediately after hitting a target.
Yes. So they're trying to limit smites. That's literally what they're trying to do, right? So I just don't know how I feel about that, like,
agreed.
They still
I don't know how I feel about that.
They still kept if you crit, you can then pump a smite, right? They still kept that because you can use it after, right? You bonus action after you expend a smite. So they still kept that, but I don't know. It's a pretty heavy hit to Paladin. To me, it's a pretty big hit.
Agreed.
So I don't know. I'll have to play test it. I think one of our players is going to play a Paladin in the next campaign we do, because kind of getting close-ish, a few months away from wrapping up our. So I think we'll play test what it looks like with other classes that you can think of off the top of your head, I'd like to talk about Sorcerer a little bit eventually, because I think Sorcerer got a change.
Looks like one change before we go too far away. It looks like all smites have moved to which you can take immediately after making a strike.
Yes.
Okay.
So now all those effect smites and stuff like that, which are never, I mean, let's be honest, they're very rare, right? Like, I don't think...
Oh, yeah, the other ones? Because you have to... before it was you had to waste a bonus action, and nobody wanted to do that. So, like, I'll just use a Divine Smite. It's okay, unless I really need to blind somebody or do one of these other abilities.
The only time I ever saw them used is if somebody stacked them. Like, they turn before they cast the Wrathful Smite or whatever, and then when they hit with Wrathful Smite, they also put normal Divine Smite on it. It's like double dice, or, you know?
Yeah.
Which you can't do anymore. Well, unless it's still concentration. I guess you probably still could then.
See, this one says the target... It's not concentration, and the target takes an extra 2d8 radiant damage from the attack. So just...
Oh, they increase
the only
damage.
time you can do Divine Smite is when it is after you've hit. Let's see, Thunderous Smite. What does Thunderous Smite say? Yeah, it looks like this one's also just written as it just takes the extra damage immediately. Like, they're not something you can hold on your weapon and then use.
Yep. So that's the only time I ever saw them used. So maybe they'll be used a little bit more. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. But
I definitely think the other ones will get more play now.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are good. Some are fun. You can prevent monsters from doing all sorts of different things.
I would like to talk about Rogue.
Okay,
if you would want
let's do it. Yeah.
And not just because I'm thinking of playing multi-class Rogue Monk in the next game.
Yeah. Yep.
Looks like you get 2 weapon masteries.
Which is great.
And then again, it goes such as, and it kind of gives you, you should probably take daggers and short bows. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can also switch out which ones you chose.
Yep. Just FYI, level 3's ability, I think it's new.
New. You can get advantage on your next attack if you take your bonus action. That's fun.
I think it's super cool.
Only if you haven't moved.
Yep.
After you
if you're like sniping or you're in a duel, like if you're sniping or in a duel, you can. I
didn't even think. I was only thinking about it in terms of sniping, but you're right. If you are face to face with somebody and you're not going to move anywhere.
Yep. If you're in a duel with someone, I think that's the point too. So like when you're the swashbuckler or whatever too, you're dueling. So I think all that kind of plays into this steady aim, because it's called steady. You just get advantage when you spend your bonus action. So sneak attack for free-ish, kind of.
Yes.
So which I think is really good.
Right. It does just give you sneak attack. Interesting thing at level 5.
Yep, here we go.
When you deal sneak attack damage, you can add an extra ability now called Cunning Strike Effects.
Yep.
You can remove dice from the dice pool of sneak attack to do other abilities, which I love. Thinking of
cool.
This sneak attack dice pool as a resource now instead of just dice that add to damage.
Yep.
I think that's fantastic. You can add poison, you can try and trip the individual, or you can use it to immediately move away without provoking attacks of opportunity. And I think it's really interesting that they specifically say for the withdraw effect, it doesn't say you don't provoke attacks of opportunity against this individual. It's against anybody. You just don't provoke them in general, which is really interesting.
It changes too. At level 14, just FYI, you can do more things.
Oh, you get a bunch. You get to daze them, knock them out, or
that all cost different
them.
Things. Yeah,
they all cast more or less dice. That's I love that.
It's
so
really
much.
cool. It's really cool. Yep, I really like it. So I think this really adds. Again, I think Rogue. I love Rogue and D&D just in general, but I think Rogue is very similar to Fighter, where it's just like, boom, sneak attack, that's my turn. Boom, sneak attack, that's my turn. And this gives you a little bit more freedom to on top of weapon match. So,
okay, you can only add one of the effects. Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. I
really
like that.
Have you read the final ability of the Rogue?
No, I haven't even gotten that. I was purely going slowly.
Really good. Very good.
Uncanny Dodge is still there.
Yep.
Is evasion the same? Yep, same.
Yep.
I love Reliable Talent.
It's pretty good, decent.
Oh,
No
at
attacks.
level 11, you can add multiple effects of the Cunning Strike.
Yep. Yep.
And this is all base. This isn't even
Base.
subclass related,
We haven't
which
even
is
looked
I love
at
that
subclasses.
every rogue gets
Yep.
it.
Yep. Elusive is really good because they can't have advantage on you at all.
Slippery Mind's nice. Proficiency in Wisdom and Charisma saving throws for just for being a rogue. That's cool.
Yep. Yep.
No attack roll can have advantage against you.
It's so
That's
good.
so good. That is one thing that they're
good.
trying to do with this edition.
Yep.
They're trying to make it far better, or not even far better, but more enticing for you to stay with one class.
Yep. And this does that for sure because level 20 is really good too.
Yeah, that makes me. Yeah, oh goodness.
If you fail a D20 test, you can turn the roll into a 20.
That's crazy.
And you regain it on a short or long rest.
I might honestly just want to play full rogue
it's
with
so
this.
good.
This is great. I love this. Are you kidding me?
Is an attack roll a D20 test?
Yeah, any time you roll a D20, they just moved. They created a name for it called a D20 test. It's the same.
So does that mean
thing.
you can auto crit somebody for sneak attack? See, it's so cool. That's so cool. Such a cool ability. I love that level 20 ability.
That's really cool. Honestly, I think I would, based on what I'm reading here, could I switch to just be full rogue?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's amazing.
Yeah. They're super cool. We have to look at the subclasses too, because we haven't even looked at subclasses. But it's really cool. So it just makes the rogue feel so much less one-trick pony, where it's just like,
oh my goodness. Yes, it is so much better to not just be a one-trick pony anymore. But I also love how subclasses are feeling less and less divorced from the base abilities of the class. There were some where it's like the base abilities of the class feel almost ignored by the subclass.
Agreed.
All of them feel like they have interesting things that they do with your base abilities. So every rogue has these abilities, but now you can do certain things different. I'm looking at the
Druid
assassin
did it too.
subclass right now. Yeah, all that I've seen so far. At level 9, you get infiltration expertise, which you can just mimic someone's voice perfectly if you've studied them for an hour, or but as well, if you take the steady aim, that bonus action to get advantage, your speed isn't reduced anymore to 0.
Yep, it's so cool.
So you can do that, but also move and move around, which is amazing.
But look at level 13. They build on it even more.
You get extra
strikes.
poison damage when you use it. That's great. I love that.
When a target fails the saving throw for poison for envenom weapons, the damage cannot be resisted. So,
wait, no. So the target also takes it.
Yep.
So wait, hold on. Okay. So the way it's worded, I'm just going to read it out wholesale. We haven't read a lot of stuff out wholesale, but I'll just read this out wholesale. When you use the poison option of your Cunning Strike, the target also takes 2d6 poison damage whenever it fails the saving throw. So does that mean that it takes 1d6? Oh, no.
So
it only ever... No, so the poison, it just gives you poison conditions.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
so this
so
now
this
adds
poison damage on top of it.
Yep.
Okay. I was confused. I was trying to figure it out. And it can't resist. It can't be resistant to it.
Yep. Which is great because so many things are resistant to poison damage.
Dude, if you use the level 17 ability, Death Strike, on top of that guaranteed 20, that's a double crit, pretty much. So
it is.
Assassin's whole thing is I'm going to attack you.
And you're going to die.
Before you've ever had a chance to move.
Yes, you're going to get assassinated.
Yeah, I'm going to attack you first, and then you're going to die.
Yep.
This one is literally...
Truly.
They have to make a con save. If they fail, you pretty much already crit them. Your attack deals double the damage.
I don't know if you read the level 3 ability, too. It builds on it's building off of level 3 ability. Because the level 3 ability allows you to do extra weapon damage if you're surprising enemies. So now you can assassinate them and do extra ability damage, all of it which would be doubled and then doubled again if you auto crit. So it's really playing into it's really playing into I assassinate you thing, which is really cool.
Which I mean, that's always they always had that ability that if they attack first, they have advantage on the attack.
Yep. So but at level 20,
you also when you hit any target during that round, the target takes extra damage of the weapon's type equal to your level.
So at level 20, you're doing 20 extra damage, just 20 flat damage.
And then with that other ability, it's 40.
40. Yep. And if you auto crit with it, you're critting all your sneak attack dice.
That's great. And you talked about not being able to blow up. You can blow up as an assassin pretty hard.
Yep. So I think they're really trying to focus in on a lot of these subclasses and narrow stuff down.
Subclass amazing.
Yeah, it's much more unique and you know, situational than it used to be. So they all just build off of these previous abilities. So pretty cool. So and then if you like envenom your weapon, that's gonna double from Death Strike, right? So like all of it just builds up to this final Death Strike where you're just like one-shotting. So
they have this fun ability with the Thief subclass.
I love
that. If you are hidden and you make an attack against an individual, you can expend 1d6 from your sneak attack dice pool to not lose the hidden status after making this attack. That's awesome.
So cool. It's so cool. Yeah. So the subclasses are well worth a look at too, because they've all changed. So I don't know if we want to. I don't know if we want to do another episode of looking at some subclasses. Like each of us find a few subclasses that we thought are really cool in their changes, and then we kind of dive into those in the next one. Because some of the subclasses are very different and they're very cool. Like Rogue is a very good. The Assassin. It feels very similar to 2014 Assassin, but it just really doubles down on I'm one shot.
Yeah, it feels the same, but also like so much better.
It's just better. Yeah, an Assassin was good. Okay.
One major thing I will say that I have enjoyed about this newest edition, I was so worried that there was gonna be so many complaining videos about it's horrible, it's the worst ever. I haven't heard anybody talking about it pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of YouTube
and that's a good for D&D. That's a good thing because they've had so much shitty things that they've done in PR and Hasbro being awful. And Hasbro being awful that it's like so nice to just have, hey, this came out and it was a great product. It's so far. It seems.
Yeah. So even like Soul Knife's ability is really cool.
Which
so,
I've had so many like players that love that the flair of it.
So obviously Sorcerer has big changes. I know we're getting we're gonna get long. Do you want to dive into one more class before we end?
Yeah, let's dive into one more class. We'll have a little bit of a long episode.
Okay.
Anything you want to come back with more classes. Well, I mean, you already said Sorcerer.
Focus.
You said you wanted to talk about Sorcerer. I'm here for Sorcerer, and then next week we can talk about Wizard, Warlock, Ranger, like the ones we just didn't talk about this time.
Yep. Cool. So Sorcerers have some changes. I think, tell me if this is for you, I think Sorcerers are pretty lacking in the 2014 edition of Dungeons & Dragons.
Nope, highly disagree.
You disagree?
You've always you and like our table have always thought really badly of Sorcerer. I love Sorcerer.
To me, I love Sorcerer. I love Sorcerer. I think it sucks, but
I think it's great. I think the idea of like the way that it works and how weird it is, and like I just innately can do magic. Woo! That's fun.
Here's the thing that I didn't like about 2014 Sorcerer is Wizard was just a better version of, because Sorcerer focused really heavily on like the I'm good at magic aspect, but utility and spells is just so much better in D&D. So Wizard being able to mobilize people with multiple different times and is just way better than a Sorcerer's like very limited niche. However, they've really doubled down Sorcerer's like just innate ability. So at level 1, their spell save DC goes up by 1. Like right off the bat, spells. So they're leaning into like sorcerers.
And you have advantage on attack rolls of sorcerer spells that you cast.
Yes.
What?
So they're really so you have to use a bonus action. You at least it does like magical ability for 1 minute.
Okay, you can only use this feature twice.
Yes, and it goes for 1 minute.
Yeah, you're increasing in 2014. I assume it's still the same in 2024. Increasing your spell save DC is super hard to do or super expensive. Like it is something that is considered such a powerful thing to have happen that it's so rare to have it happen. So the fact that level 1, they're like, as a bonus action, for a minute, you can have yours increased. That's big.
It's very good. So they're really doubling down on am innately good at using magic, right? I didn't study my way to do it. I'm just innately good, and I can channel that innate magical ability within me to be better for a minute, right? So I like that. I think this is already really good. In fact, I think for a minute, having your DC increased by 1 is very good. Or advantage on attack rolls with your sorcerer spells, crazy. Both of those together is crazy. So they changed a few things about sorcery points. To convert sorcery points, or converting spells into sorcery points, it no longer takes any kind of action. It's free. You can just do it.
Oh, that's so nice.
It's much needed, okay? You still have to use a bonus action to convert sorcery points into spell slots, which I think is fine. So that is a change that I think is
sorcery points and being able to manipulate their spells in interesting ways. The ability to just get more uses by expending a spell slot is with no action required is chef's kiss amazing, like just perfect. Because that was always my biggest problem, is I was like, I have to convert so many points of this and that and this just to be able to do my ability again. And so I had to plan out, like, okay, this turn I'll convert 4, this turn I'll convert, like, and it was irritating. So I appreciate the ability to do it.
Yeah, because you just want to be able to expend spell slots to, supernova, right?
Do
like,
your main ability.
You want to do. Yep, exactly. Now, they have a lot of ways of restoring sorcery points pretty early now, so like short resting. Yep. So
you
like
get half of
there's
them
just
back at a short rest.
It just feels much more sustainable than it used to, where it's like I cast at level 5, I cast a second level spell and I use my meta magic. I can't use it anymore. Like, it's pretty much what it felt like. Okay, so now you can at least get some stuff back easier. However, level 7 is really interesting to me, because you can now use 2 meta magic options on each of your spells instead of just 1. So if you want to empower your spell and make it silent, you can do that. If you want to extend the range, you can
also use 2 points of sorcerer points to gain back that first level ability of increasing your DC and gaining advantage on attack rolls of sorcerer spells that you cast. So if you've already used that, you can just gain it back with only 2 sorcerer points, which doesn't feel like a lot.
So, and I think, if I'm reading this right, at level 7, you don't have to double the sorcery points. You just automatically get 2 options of magic. So you don't have to spend 4 to do 2 attacks. It's only 2, or to do 2 options. It's only 2. So it's just a permanent. You can use up to 2. So do you think you have to spend
so
double?
Whatever meta magic you're using, you still have to spend the sorcery point cost.
Because it just says, while your innate sorcery feature is active, you can use up 2 of your meta magic options each spell you cast. It doesn't really say much about cost. So do you still have to pay the cost?
It says cost in the meta magic option itself. So yes, you definitely have to pay for both meta magic things that you choose.
But you can add 2, which is pretty cool. I don't know. Now that you have to, it has to be cost. I don't know how good it is, because you're gonna waste your sorcery so fast doing it. I don't know how good it is, because you have to. Either way, if you really wanted to snipe somebody and empower a spell, you could.
But like twining and doubling the range, if you're like, I'm so far away, but I need to be able to like polymorph these 2 people, that's nice.
Yeah. I think costs also changed a little bit. Especially when you hit level 20, I believe. So you can, at level 20, you can use your innate sorcery feature. You can use meta magic options without spending sorcery points. On each of you, use 1 meta magic option without spending. So you can just like start slinging spells that are super strong, or So level 20 is a big buff. It really encourages you to go 20 levels, because you can just always be using these meta magics as long as you're in your sorcery, your innate magic ability. For that 1 minute,
Twine
you can
spell
always.
Is gone.
Twin spell is gone.
Like, it's still here, but it says
Twin spell.
It just allows you to cast it at a higher level using sorcery points instead.
Yep. They got rid of the double target, which is very.
The double target was so nice, but also super busted. Oh,
I'm curious if they added a different, because I guess like if you quicken a spell,
I read through them because I was specifically looking for it.
Yeah, they got rid of twin spell, which kind of sucks, but also understandable, because twin spell was real.
It was
but
very, very powerful. It allowed you to cast one spell and be like, I'm going to have it affect 2 people instead of 1 with just paying some sorcery points.
Yep. So
that
you can
that alone, that one change makes me a lot less likely to play Sorcerer.
Yeah, that's a pretty big nerf.
But it's still an interesting and fun class, and has
it's changed quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see how it kind of plays out.
Yeah,
the level 1 ability is just so good that it's hard not to highlight it.
It's so fun.
it's very, very. So I'm curious. I don't know anything about the subclasses. So I don't know if they play off more of like maybe one of the subclasses gives you a better ability to twin a spell or do something like that. Because it seems like a lot of these subclasses have kind of built off of ability. Yeah, there's a lot of changes that are very interesting. Removing twin spell is a big hit for me. That's rough. Well, it's still there. They just changed it. It's just now you can upcast it.
They took away with
Oh no, I see
magic.
What they did with it. They did with it. Okay, so when you cast a spell, such as Charm Person, that can cast with a higher level spell to target an additional creature, you can just spend a sorcery point to target additional creature instead of upcast it.
Okay, but it still took away the main ability of it. The most interesting part
of shooting 2 like witch bolts or something, right? Like
because
you could never cast like area of effects doing this, but you could do single target, like 2 chromatic orbs.
Single targets, you could do it twice. There are certain spells that don't allow you to double target.
Yep. So now you can't do that. So now it's just if the spell allows you to target additional individuals, you can now spend a sorcery instead to target additional. So changing. I'm not sure. I really like the double Nova of like 2 chromatic orbs. I think that's really good. Now I guess you could just quicken it though, right? Because you would just cast one and then bonus action cast it again. So I guess you could just quicken.
Well, does it allow that? Why. Does the spell only able to cast 1 leveled spell a turn?
Nope.
Still affect.
Nope. The casting time is to do a bonus action for this. You can't modify the spell. I think you can just. Oh yeah. So it would have to be like a cantrip followed by. So. Yeah. So it is pretty heavily nerfed in that regard. But anyways, that's the changes to sorcery that I wanted to highlight.
Yeah. I'm going through the wild magic table right now. I don't know. I don't remember everything that was on the old one, but this one seems like everything is good.
They've shrunk it down a lot, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. And I think they're trying to convince people to take it more than it was, because it was kind of...
Well, so one thing that they're doing is that they have made it so it is not it's DM's choice if something happens.
So the Wild Magic Surge table, let's see, what is it like now?
So most of the stuff on there is good, just purely beneficial. Once per turn, you can roll 1d20 immediately after you cast a sorcerer spell with a spell slot. If you roll a 20, roll on the Wild Magic Surge table. They took out the kind of like, if your DM asks you to, like it's not.
Yep.
It's just a part of the thing.
Yep, it just happens, which is very rare.
They did add an interesting thing, a little caveat, that if the magical effect that takes place because of this magic surge is a spell, you cannot use meta magic on it, which is an interesting little thing to catch.
There's still some pretty random ones here, but
yeah, but none of them are that bad. Besides 93 to 96, you and all creatures within 30 feet of you have vulnerability to piercing damage.
Yeah.
The only ones that are bad are like, but you choose. So you could just choose all the enemies. So it's not bad anymore.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of really good ones in here. Take an extra action a turn. That's really good.
Just
creatures
three
have
creatures of your
saving
choice
throws.
within 30 feet of you take 4d10 damage. Like, it's just good. The only bad ones are like a random creature within 60 feet of you is the poison condition. Or you have the frightened condition until the end of your next turn. Like, it's very small amounts of bad.
Yeah. I personally hated wild magic, so I'm so far okay with the changes just because I hated a fireball blowing up on me and killing my party. Like, it's funny, but like it's really annoying to
I think for the types of games we play, it just doesn't fit the vibe very well. But I think that it's great for those games. Yeah, it's very good for those games where it's like, that is the vibe. We're going for a little sillier, a little weirder world.
Yep. So, I don't know.
Have you looked into Clockwork, Sorcerer?
No, I haven't, but it looks so cool.
Yeah, the Draconic one looks like it's mostly just like an elemental affinity type thing.
How close to the like original
dragon
Draconic
wings,
Sorcerer is it?
And then you can summon a dragon at 18th level.
Whoa! Your hit point maximum is increased by 3 instead of 2 now at every level.
At every level, it's 3. Dang, that's far better.
Oh no! It
increases by 3 at beginning and then 1
3
every
at the beginning and then
that's different.
Yeah.
That would have been way more powerful.
As good. Yeah.
So at the end of the 2014, at 18th level,
is really good. The
armor class ability is
really good.
Is it not
now
13 plus AC?
It's now 10 plus your dexterity and charisma. So you can get 20 AC if you get plus 5 in each.
Dang, that is nice. It used to be 13 plus dex.
Yep. So now you can get 2 more AC.
That is cool. The previous one was at 18th level. You could pretty much create a draconic presence by using 5 sorcery points.
Yep. Not anymore.
Now you can summon a dragon?
Yes.
You can cast it without a spell slot. You regain the ability to cast it. This is you summon a dragon spirit. It has a dragon spirit spell slot. Is an ally to you and your allies. Shares your initiative count, but it takes its turn immediately after yours. It obeys your verbal commands.
Yep. You can also make it so you can also make this spell so it doesn't require concentration.
Oh, does it say that too?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when you start casting the spell, you can modify it so that it doesn't.
Yep. So really good.
Oh, but it takes a minute to cast it then instead of an action.
Yep.
That's interesting.
So like if you're preparing for a big fight.
This creature doesn't look that good.
The summon dragon.
Spell is 5th level. Does it say you cast it at a higher level or just 5th level? So the AC, I guess the AC would be 19, which is pretty good.
Well, I think the big thing is you can cast it without material. So no matter what, if you cast it at 9th level, you can cast it. You can cast it
without materials. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how expensive it to cast this, but
yeah. So I guess now you can just do it for free. The material components are an object with the image of a dragon engraved on it worth 500 plus gold pieces.
Okay, so that's not that big of it. If it was like a 2,000 or 5,000 cost, but 500 big of a deal. Unless you're playing a game. It only does like 2d6 damage with its breath weapon. It does 1d6 plus 4 plus the spell's level, so that'd be 1d6 plus 9 piercing damage for its rend attack. It makes a number of rend attacks equal to half the spell's level rounded down, so that would be 2 attacks per turn. At 5th 3
level.
At level 6. Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's not super, but also it's free.
But it's
just
nice.
Automatically does
it's
all that.
Free. It also flies, so it flies 60 feet. It's a dragon, so you could ride on it if need be and cast it for free. Like there's more uses to it than just combat, but also it's not bad.
How much health does it have?
50.
50?
And then it's 10 plus each level above 5. So whatever spell level it's at, it pretty much
it's tankier than the wild magic druid, or it's
times 10.
Yeah, well, it's tankier than the druid, so it's tankier than the druid wild shape. I don't know. It also does feel like they're trying to reduce some tankage here. I don't know what barbarian.
It does. It
how
seems
barbarians change.
Well, and we'll talk about that next week or next recording. The thing that's always been a problem with D&D is that it hasn't had enough control.
Yep.
Like being a tank in a video game, you're constantly drawing aggro. Like you're doing all these things to specifically draw attention to you.
Yep.
And D&D's just never had abilities to do that.
Yeah, it has goading attack and stuff like that, but it's not.
But that's
super common.
You have to play a class that's not typically a tank. Barbarians don't have anything to draw aggro.
No, you can just ignore them or wisdom save and they suck.
Yeah, and so it's interesting that they're taking away these other more tanky abilities.
Yep.
Because that'll be interesting in combat terms of how it'll play out. But I think this is interesting. I think we had a good conversation.
It's long.
And long but good. Thank you all for listening to oh goodness, I didn't even pull up what episode this was.
Who knows?
127, I think, of Dungeoneered that we've recorded. We haven't released 127 episodes yet, but we have them recorded. Thank you all for listening. If you listen to us on any apps that have ratings and reviews, it really helps the show. If you write a review, let us know what you think about the show, but also let people who are finding the show for the first time kind of know what they're getting into. If you'd like to write to us, you can write to us at dungeoneered@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas for topics, lukewarm opens, recipes, anything like that, we'd love to hear it. Anything else you could think of, Aaron, to add?
I think that is much it. As always. Dang it.
As I always say, always remember to be the sharpest barrel in the bunch. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.